everybody. I wanted to take a moment and talk to you about what utilities you're responsible for on your property and some of the costs involved. And while many of you know this information, a lot of you don't, and I've discovered that after speaking to you. And I'm certainly not an expert in this. I'm in the process of doing a lot of this myself right now, and I thought I'd share some of the information with you. Sewer lines and water lines, once they come off the city street toward your house, there's a particular amount of feet that the city is responsible for, then it's your responsibility. And that means you have to pay for any work that is done from that point on to your house. And that can add up. I mean, we can probably look at numbers as high as $10,000 for sewer line replacements, and somewhere in between that. So it's not money that everybody has handily available. What we need to do is we need to look at how we can afford this and how we can protect ourselves. And I will talk to you shortly about a company that EPCOR has aligned themselves with, and that is a company called HomeServe. Before I get to the HomeServe part, I want to run through some basics on the plumbing for you, because I don't think everybody fully understands how it works, and I want to go through some basics with you. So if you go into your basement, you're going to see a big 4-inch pipe that's going to come up from the basement floor and disappear into the ceiling of the basement. And you may see branches coming to it from different angles. At the bottom of it, you may see a big plug that pulls out. That's called a clean-out plug. That allows you or a plumber to get in there and try to clean out any blockage that might be happening. Or I might put a snake down there and auger and try to auger the system out if there's a major plug. But in essence, everything runs into that stack. That stack goes through to your roof. And at the top of the roof, it's got a cap on it and actually breathes in oxygen in order to make the plumbing work. Because without air, the plumbing won't, the water won't flow. So it resides on your roof. Once a year, I go up to make sure that my stack isn't plugged. It never is, but I'm kind of paranoid that way, so I'll go and have a look. Once that plug comes down from the roof into your house again, everything branches into that. That goes through the basement floor, under the concrete, out your house, eventually to the city line. Now, when will you know you have a problem? If you have one toilet that is running slow or plugged, it's usually not your main sewer line. If you have a sink that's slow or plugged, it's not your sewer line. It's probably that particular area that's the problem, and you can have a plumber deal with that. But normally what happens is when you have a problem with your sewer line, everything in the house will be slow. Your toilets won't flush at all or very slowly. All your sinks will start to back up all at the same time. You know you've got a problem. So what kind of problem might you have? You may have a problem that's somewhere in the bottom of the stack in the basement that they can easily get the cleanup plug on, open that up, and push in a snake and snake out that part of the line. That might solve the problem. Sometimes it's a greater problem, and that is in the sewer line that runs from under your house to the street. And what happens oftentimes there is the pipe is running under your lawn, especially you have trees. Tree roots can sense moisture. So what they'll do is they'll actually send roots, and eventually they will break through older pipe, usually not plastic, but other materials that are common in older homes, and break through and actually enter the inside of the pipe and literally block the flow. Maybe not 100%, but block it enough, for example, that toilet paper would get plugged up in and make a big wad, and then all of a sudden your water doesn't flow anymore because of it. So they will send a snake down the line. The plumber will come in and auger it out, try to spin that in there and try to destroy those roots. And hopefully that clears up the problem. I've talked to people that have had to do that every few years because the trees were so bad. So that's one issue you might face. Another issue you might face would be a total collapse of your drain pipe. And that's where it's going to just fall apart. And at that point, nothing gets through anymore, simply because there isn't enough area for the sewage to flow out of. And at that point, you've got a big problem because you need to replace that line. So having said that, in the old days, one of the only technologies that they had was called trenching. And what they would do is they would come onto your lawn and with a digger start actually digging along the length of where the sewer line was, dig that up completely right to your house, pull that line out of there, replace a new line, hook it back up to the house and to the city, cover it with dirt, and go away. Well, you're left with this big scar on your property, and you've got to replace grass and anything else you might have there. So, it's labor intensive, so it isn't cheap to do it, and plus it leaves a lot of damage. So at one point they came up with something called pipe bursting. And what pipe bursting is you have your existing line like this, and they will come in with a pointed device which is hooked onto a new sewer line, and they will push that through. And what happens is it's going to be an angle like this, and it's going to go through, and they'll eventually push it and push it and push it. And as the bigger part tries to go in, it's going to pop the line and just continue to pop it all the way until it comes out at the city end. They're going to connect that back up. They're going to connect this end to your house. This existing pipe is just all garbage. It's just laying underground broken because you now have a new line. Then they have a new way now, which is called SIP, and that stands for Cured in Place Plastic Pipe. And what SIP does is they will take your existing pipe and they will come in with a flat hose material, and they will line the inside. They will pull it through completely to the other side. Now, this is not going to do any good, of course, because it's flat. But what they will do is they will apply air pressure and heat and steam and blow open this. It'll be like a balloon. This whole thing will expand, and it will coat the inside of your existing pipe. And after a curing period, it becomes hard, and it's just as good as, at least better than what you had in there, and you should get many years of life out of it. And I think that's the least expensive way to go. I'd have to actually check some dollars on that, but that's my understanding from what I've heard. So you've got those three things that are going to happen. The other thing that you need to look at is your water line itself from the city. Your drinking water, all your water coming in, is running underground as well, and that's coming into your home. And again, that becomes your responsibility from a certain point on when it connects to your house. If it goes, you have to pay for that. And I think a lot of people are surprised when they find that out. Now, we're looking at some pretty big dollars, and everybody does not have the money to put out for that type of work. So what do? Here's where EPCOR and the HomeServe come in. HomeServe is an insurance company that offers protection and help in paying for these items at a really reasonable rate. So let me grab my tablet, and I'm going to cover off on what these people offer, okay? So the first one that they talk about is the exterior water line service. So that's the water coming from your house, from the street to your house. And if you have to replace that from your point of responsibility to your house, this insurance will cover that. And that plan is $5.99 a month. It's a very reasonable plan, given what the cost might be to replace that. The other plan that they have is the exterior sewer septic insurance. And what that's going to do, it's going to help pay for the sewer line replacement that you have to have done. And if I remember correctly, these people will pay up to $6,000 in cost to help out with that. You need to read the exclusions on all of their products to make sure that you're not buying something that you're not going to be entitled to coverage later on. But a lot of that is really commercial and multi-lines and that type of thing, not really residential homeowner. The one thing that you want to watch for is the terminology of, we won't cover you if you're aware of pre-existing conditions. Most people have no idea what the condition of their sewer line is like, and if ever asked, you say, I had no idea. I thought the sewer was fine because it's been working all these years. It's pretty reasonable for $11.99. So for less than $20, we're at a point now where you can get coverage for your water line and for your sewer line. It's something you want to investigate, and in my case, this is a product that I'm buying for our family because I don't want to have to put up that kind of money. One of the other insurances that they offer, and I think it's important to point out because we have to deal with this in this province, is heating system insurance. So we get a lot of winter and your furnace is on all the time, something breaks, it can be costly. I mean, you're probably looking at a minimum of $200 for somebody to come out and, fiddle around with your furnace until they get it going. So who's going to pay for that? Who's going to buy the parts? That type of thing. Now, I need to point out they will not replace an entire furnace. What they will do is they will replace the parts on the furnace itself and those costs associated with that. You can't claim a thermostat or filters or that type of thing. It has to be a working part of the furnace. But that's $10.99 a month. So at this point, we're well under $30 to get your furnace insured, to get your water line insured, and your sewer line insured. And you know, who wants to think about getting this type of stuff? Well, probably everybody, but I think in particular, if you live in an older home. I lived in Glenwood for 21 years, and that house was built in 1952. When I had to replace my sewer line, I discovered that it was a cardboard pipe lined with tar on the inside and tar on the outside. And it eventually just delaminated and collapsed upon itself, and I had to have it replaced. Who knew you could use cardboard for a sewer line? So many homes in Glenwood would likely still have that. In other cases, it is tile, a variety of different materials that they would use depending on the age of the home. These days on a new home, they're plastic lines. You usually don't have problems with them because plastic is almost forever. So it's something to consider, especially if you're living in an older neighborhood. So this is where I've gotten with it, and hopefully it's given you something to think about, or at least something to talk about. And it would be a pleasure to hear from many of you out there who've either have had experience with this type of work. What kind of cost did you incur? Who did you deal with? Did you deal with HomeServe? Give us a feeling for what those people are like, and share that with the community, because there's so many of us that are going to be affected by this, and you don't want to be looking around at the last second and discover that you don't know what it is that you have to do, and you might be putting out money for something that you don't have to put out for. So share your stories. Let's get together and help each other out, and hope you found this of use, and we'll see you around the neighborhood. Take care.